When we are setting out to put a perimeter of security around our crown jewels to prevent all kinds of hackers and bad guys from coming in, we must remember the principle of the weakest link. Somewhere in this parameter there is a place where the penetration is the easiest, where the possibility for the bad guy to come in is easier than in other places. And it doesn't matter how strong we are at all the places where we are not attacked. It's the weakest link. It's the place where the penetration happens, where the strength matters, where the battle rages between the penetrating hacker and our defense. Remember, a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. It doesn't matter how strong those links are. If you have here a link that is weak, the chain breaks. Remember, computer security has three facets. We have the technology, the algorithms, the math. We have the procedures, step by step, step by step. And we have the human element. The weakest link in any situation can be either in the technology or in the procedures or in the human element. It doesn't matter how strong your cryptography is if in the procedural implementation of it there is a hole and the hacker comes in. And it doesn't matter how strong the procedure and the algorithm are, if you have a rotten apple in your midst, someone who betrays your trust. Any one of those three can contain the weakest link. It's hard to spot it, especially because we all naturally cement and build the strongest link. People who are good at the technology of the ciphers will always improve this part. The bean counters that are good at the procedures will improve this. Those who can read people and pride themselves of understanding who is right and who is wrong, who is trustworthy and who is not, will work on the human part. Naturally. But the weakest link can be elsewhere. It's not easy to find It's not easy to find the weakest link. Let's say you have here your database with HR, human resources. You have in your system the customer relationship management database. And here you have the promo, all the relationship with prospective customers. And here you have the database that keeps all the R&D on which you build the business of the future. Now, where is the weakest link? Here, 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 here? We don't know. On one hand, these two databases have maximum interaction with the public through your website. But on the other hand, the HR has more valuable information and the R&D the most valuable. So this is the crown jewel. Where is the weakest link? You find the weakest link by looking at the system as a whole and analyzing it. What will it take to come in and compromise it? And you develop a scenario. You attack here, then move there, then go to this database, then compromise this piece, and eventually get what you're after. So this is threat scenario number one. When you are done with that, you say, okay, that's one. Now what happens next? You take your imagination and you are thinking, how about we will attack here and simultaneously there and take this information through social engineering, eventually move to this point and then get where we want to be. This is threat scenario number two. And the same way, you are looking at the picture again and asking maybe another team, you come up with a scenario that will allow me to come around, find the weakest link, and attack the way that you think will be effective. You take all those scenarios, and for each of them, you develop two numbers. One is the damage in dollars, if it happens, and the other is the probability to happen. The damage of each scenario and the probability. Next, what you do, you take the damage multiplied by the probability and you get the threat of scenario I, which is 1, 2, 3, etc. The threat expressed in dollars you can then draw in a histogram. This is the biggest threat, second threat, the third, etc. The area of your system that are penetrated with this biggest threat, they are your weakest link. And after you are able to build this histogram of your threats, rank ordered from the biggest threat to the smallest, then comes the critical step of resource allocation. And the rule of thumb is you allocate your resources with the same proportion as the threats. These are the resources, the main tools that you have to build security. It's your machinery, it's your know-how, it's your talent, it's your people, it's your time, etc. So these are the threats. And these are the resources that you put to bear against the threats. What is very critical is that the number one threat should get the highest allocation of resources. Oftentimes, this threat is not something you are comfortable with. So many security people ignore it and attack threat number 2, 3, and 4, which are very important. And they put a lot of resources against them. But they miss the weakest link. They miss the threat that is the biggest by calculating damage times probability. And if they didn't put the resources, they are done for.